Another tweet that I really appreciated was Allie Beth Stuckey. I don't know if y'all know who she is. Conservative millennial. She's now on, oh, I forget which outlet she's on, but she's another believer with just great integrity as far as I'm concerned. She, oh my gosh, did he take it down? I should have taken screenshots. I'm going to have to, come on. She picked on Rick Warren. Of course, we know who Rick Warren is. He was the megachurch pastor, Saddleback Church. He grew this huge monster that is now really falling away from. They were part of the Southern Baptist Convention. They've really fallen away from not just their position on women clergy, which was staked out and fought over in the 1980s, but also on homosexuality. There's been a lot of stuff. They've really slid. Rick Warren retired a year or two ago, had a parting address toward the Southern Baptist Convention where he just bragged about how many pastors he trained, and he's just grown increasingly distasteful. He put out a tweet that I need to pull up. Can I even do this while talking? It was dealing with partisan stuff. Rick Warren tweet. I'm going to see if it shows it to me at all. Somebody surely took a screenshot, and I'm not seeing it. You're going to have to believe me and look it up yourself. He said Jesus was crucified between two guys, one on the left, one on the right. That shows that in this partisan divide between left and right in America, you need to be right in the middle. And so that's what Allie Beth is responding to. And she says, this is possibly the worst biblical interpretation I've ever seen. And that's really saying something. Jesus is not in the middle on the murder of children, gender deception, the definition of marriage, or anything else for that matter. In fact, I seem to remember him having a particular disdain for the lukewarm. So, of course, she's referring to his words in Revelation, you are neither cold nor hot, so because you are lukewarm, I will spew you out of my mouth. Christians are called to be actually quite extreme in some ways. There are some ways that we're called to be via media in the middle of certain propositions, so especially Wesleyans, the balance of faith and works is really quite important. Vital piety and knowledge, I think, is another one. These are things we hold in tension, but there are other things like, okay, where's the middle on abortion? Where's the middle on gay marriage? There is no middle on these positions. You need to take a side, and you need to take Jesus' side on these things. To imagine that Jesus is some place in the middle is a silly fiction for people who just don't have the integrity to get on one side of the fence or the other. People who don't have discernment. People who want to make gray out of a world that's actually black and white. Allie Beth Stuckey and many others picked up on this tweet before. I guess he took it down overnight. I looked at this just yesterday. Wish I had thought to take a screenshot. I know other people have. I don't know what's the point of even taking a tweet down if people take. I guess maybe he changed his mind. I hope he did, because it was a moronic position to hold. What that theological position actually is Hegelian dialectics. You have a thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. This is how postmoderns break down everything, deconstruct everything. You have the truth, and then you introduce a lie, and then you make an amalgam of the two. And that is not a serious way to go through life. There is such a thing as light and dark, good and bad, right and wrong, true and false. And then what every adult knew until the 1960s is you have to figure these things out. And what every Christian adult knew was Scripture is quite clear on any number of points. If it isn't, there are still principles you can lean upon. With every political issue, with every moral issue, there is a clear direction that we're called to take a stand. And then we have spiritual leaders like Rick Warren saying, hey, the place to be is in the middle. That actually saps the church of its moral value and convictions and makes it so that people are going to default to other worldly powers to decide where they're going to stand. And that's exactly been the problem. That's what many people I've consulted on this show have been pointing out, is that worldly powers have been over time very effectively compromising the church from the inside. People like Francis Collins pretending to be a Christian and coming and speaking to people like Rick Warren, saying, hey, the Christian position is this, when it's actually something quite different, and making it so that Christians don't have discernment to navigate the times that we're in. So I very much appreciated this corrective from Shane Pruitt. I don't know if he was at all responding to this situation, but his tweet said, people didn't yell to crucify Jesus because he was really nice, tolerant, non-judgmental, all-inclusive, and affirming. People yelled crucify because he claimed to be God, said that he was the only way. He called out sin and rejected what culture and religion had accepted. And that needs to be just something that we always remind ourselves about. Jesus warned us that the world would hate us because it hated him first. Our call is not to be in the middle, to be well thought of and respectable. We are told to get along with people as best as we're able. We're not supposed to be unnecessarily divisive or caustic or nasty, but we are supposed to take a stand. And in particular, the issue of our age is the unborn. If you can't stand for the unborn, millions of lives being extinguished over the last couple of decades, especially people of minorities. If we're going to bring race stuff into it, that's the number one justice issue with Black America in particular. If you can't name that for what it is, take a strong stand for it, then what's your faith good for? This is the thing that we're going to look back at from a few decades out and go, how could we have ever allowed this? And the excuse was just what we were doing at the time. We just didn't know. That's not going to be acceptable. So we need to be people who grow increasingly intolerant of people lifting up Hegelian dialectics as though it's a valid form of theology in the church. We need to be increasingly intolerant of tolerant people in the church. John MacArthur would not be tolerant of me in his church. I would not at all be welcome as a colleague. He would see me as a heretic. But I tell you, I appreciate John MacArthur because he is an intolerant man of heresy, and he leads intolerant Christians who are also discerning in their walk. And that's the kind of Christians that we need, who stand on integrity, who draw a clear line, who separate light from dark. Speaking of John MacArthur, a good MacArthur quote, he says, people say doctrine divides, and it absolutely does. It divides truth from fiction. And if we are people of the truth, then this is something that should not scare us, but it should be something that we're actually drawn to and training for. This world is a training ground in righteousness. And actually the scriptures train us for righteousness. And we need to be people who embrace that challenge and are willing to be disagreeable and have the integrity to actually block out voices like Rick Warren's who are going to water us down.